Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the September 26th Finance Meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Cahill. Member Chaplin. Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Childress. Member Covert. Member Desart.
Here.
Member Eckhoff. Member Evans. Member Galassi. Member Garcia. Member Guston. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozag. Member Rutledge. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu. And Member Zay.
Okay, we have a quorum. Do we have any public comment this morning? Okay, no public comment. Chairman Marks, we do have a couple members that texted saying they were going to be late because of the weather. So we just hope they get here safely. And with that, can I have a, I'll move to approve the minutes from the September 12th Finance meeting. I had a motion by member Desart, a second by member Childress. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Can I have a motion on FIR 022223 budget transfers 9/26/2023 from various companies and accounting units? Member Garcia, member Desart. Member Desart made the motion, second by member Covert. Any discussion on these? Member Yu?
So I actually did have a quick question on the motor fuel tax.
Okay, Chris, did you want to come up and help us out a little bit here? Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming up.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Go ahead, member Yu.
Oh, thanks, Chris, for coming up.
Sure.
So I understand this is a over $3 million transfer. And this stems back to something that the board voted on in April of 2022. It was like an over $6 million project to tear down an offsite facility and to rebuild it.
Right.
So I'm just wondering why it's another additional 3 million, or if it's just the transfer and it didn't happen before. I just kind of wanted a little bit more background information, please.
Sure. So it's not an increase. We have an offsite maintenance facility that we thought would be built half last year, half this year. Because of various startup delays, really not much was done last year. So when we did the budget, we didn't reflect that amount in our budget. However, we do have available funds in our capital line item for roadway projects. And for various reasons, various projects will shift to next year. So this is not an increase, it's just moving money from the capital roadway projects to the building improvement. So it's not an increase, it's just, it'll essentially be built all this year.
Okay, that answers your question. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. We move on to procurement requisitions, and I'm going to call on member Krajewski for finance.
Madam Chair, I move on 23-3108, recommendation for approval of contract purchase order issued to Kentwood Office Furniture to replace office chairs.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 0016-23, recommendation approval of contract purchase order issued to Baker Tilly US LLP to provide our audit services.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. We're going to move on to animal services, and I'm going to call member Krajewski again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on ASC-CO-0001-23, amendment to our purchase order issued to Hills Pet Nutrition Sales, Inc. to provide canine and pet food.
I have a motion by member.
$31,700.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Krajewski. We move on to economic development and a member LaPlante's absence. I'm going to call member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on EDCO 00323 amendment to county contract 6027001 issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project to provide services to in-school youth for job training for the Workforce Development Division to extend the contract through September 30th, 2024, and increase the contract in the amount of $123,925 for a new contract amount of $247,850.
Okay, I have a motion by member Galassi, a second by member Desart. Member Childress, go ahead. Oh, your microphone, please.
As I was looking at this again, I added the numbers up of the three. and it comes out to $764,000. It's $750,000. The question I have is, we're extending the contract. Is that standard? And is this the lowest responsible bid on this contract?
Lisa, are you on? Could you help us out here a little bit?
Because $750,000 is a lot of money. And
I think procurement wants to come up.
Who wants to come up? Oh, is that Valerie? Yeah. Morning, Valerie. Thank you.
Yes, it is standard. They actually extended the contract, so it is a grant related. So this is common for this department. It was the lowest responsible bidder as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Valerie. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Glassy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on EDCO 0000423 amendment to county contract 60280001 issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project to provide services to out-of-school youth for job training for the Workforce Development Division to extend the contract through September 30th, 2024, and increase the contract amount of $342,643 for a new contract amount of $635,286.
Okay, I have a motion by member Glassy, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Member Glassy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on EDCO 0000523 amendment to county contract 60290001 issued to World Relief to provide job training to immigrants and youth for the Workforce Development Division to extend the contract through September 30th, 2024, and increase the contract in the amount of $298,038 for a new contract amount of $488,690.
Have a motion by member Glassy, second by member Desart. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, as Member Childers said, this is a lot of money. Do we get any kind of benchmarks? How many people we're actually helping? How many jobs we're getting out there in the market? Do we have any kind of figures we can get for past years and maybe next year? How many people we're helping at this point?
Could we get? Come on up here, Nick. Morning, Nick.
We will get, we'll talk to Lisa Spock in between, and we'll get that information to you.
Okay,
Without a doubt.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Krajewski.
Are these all federal grants that come through?
Yes.
Okay, because a lot of these things that we're doing with these federal grants are the ones that our state's attorneys say we can't do for our own money. So maybe we should look at legislation in Springfield to allow us to be able to do the same thing that we're doing already, administering these federal grants. And a lot of these federal grants, and we had this discussion with the small grants that Member Schwarzy was doing it. Oh, we can't do this as a county. We can't do this as a county. We can't do this as a county, yet we're doing it as a county with the federal money that we're getting. So maybe we should talk to our legislators about amending the county code for non-home rule to allow us to do the same thing that we already are administering with all this federal money.
Yeah, and to that point, we are, once the small grant program is finished here, we are going to be meeting as a team, probably including several of the board members, to figure out, to be ready for next year's, to maybe streamline it a bit. So we've already talked about that.
Well, I'm talking about
we add to it.
legislation.
Absolutely.
Springfield,
We'll talk to Cheryl as well.
Yeah, we're 1 million people here. We're administering this stuff with the federal grants, and it's not just these 3/4 we did here, but HHS does it too. And we should be able to do that to our own residents with our own money too. Thank you.
Thank you, member Krajewski. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Glassy. We move on to Human Services and member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. An update on our Small Human Services Grant Fund, including an item on today's agenda. As you all know that the grants were approved at the committee level as part of the resolution, which we actually approved the first meeting in September. With that being said, we did have some discussion on some District 5 organizations that, but our District 5 reps, for very good and legitimate reasons, were unable to attend our meeting. So so they didn't get the discussion that they deserved. And so come to our last meeting last Tuesday, when all three District 5 members were in attendance, we had the discussion that we weren't able to have two meetings prior, the meeting prior. So, and that will be item 71, which is going to increase the amount to $20,000 for the Indian Prairie Educational Foundation. So that's one of the items. The other item is, and this one sort of just slipped through the cracks, Right Assist Naperville on our meeting on September 5th was awarded $10,424, but they only asked for 10,000. So we're dropping that down to 10,000 as part of the resolution. And then finally, one entity in District 6 decided to withdraw their application because what they originally wanted to purchase, they were unable to realize that that purchase was going to be somewhere around $200,000. They were unaware, and in their good conscience, they decided just to go ahead and withdraw from the application process. So a few other items regarding this. I know the Assistant State's Attorney McCarthy has been meeting with all the recipients over the course of this past week. He'll be continuing this week and working out all the agreements with those, which will lead to the distribution process. So there's nothing set in stone yet for the distribution process. We talked about maybe doing it at the last meeting in October in between our finance and county board. Member Krajewski brought up a potentially good idea last meeting, saying that would this group be interested in holding it in their own district? So at our meeting on Tuesday, Human Services Committee Tuesday, I asked all the committee members in each district to reach out to their electeds in their district and decide if you want to do it here at a board meeting or in your own district, just with your own representatives. So if you haven't been reached out by your board members, we'll talk to you this week about that, and we'll get back to staff on that. So and then finally, just to reiterate what Nick said, we will be having a human services / finance meeting with the chair and the vice chair, along with staff from the state's attorney's office and the finance chair and human services, to streamline, to do make the changes, whatever changes we need to make next year's process much better. So including Brian, Member Krajewski, your comments, we can make whatever changes you feel we need to, or that we feel we need to. So all right, with that being said, I'm moving on to I make the motion to approve item 233094, HSR 58823, amendment to resolution HSR 5823 to amend the final funding recommendations to small agencies under the small agency grant program.
Have a motion by member Schwartz, second by member Guston. Any discussion? Oh, member Desart.
Does that have to be approved with the amendments made?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you've made amendments to what's here, so do you have to make an amendment,
The-
approve with
It's in the
amendments?
That's
made?
this, that's,
It's in the resolution.
All right, already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
it's all in there. Yes.
Just doing house.
Nope. Thank you,
Thank
member
you.
Desart. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Opposed, motion carries. Member Schwartzy.
Thank you. I move to approve item 233072 HSP 49A23, amendment to resolution HSP 4923 issued to Spot On Transact LLC for the point of sale system for the DuPage Care Center dining services and other cafes on county campus for the period March 1st, 23 through February 28, 26, to increase encumbrance in the amount of $54,500, a 114.22% increase.
Motion by member Schwartzy, second by member Childress. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Member Schwartzy.
I move to approve item HSP 6823, approval of a contract purchase order issued to Haggerty Ford to furnish and deliver one 2022 Ford Transit Connect van for the weatherization program for a contract total amount of $43,230, and this is weatherization grant funded.
Motion by member Schwartzy, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Member Schwartzy.
And finally, I move to approve item HSP 6923, awarding resolution issued to Benovate Inc. doing business as Neighborly Software to provide a grants management software system for the emergency rental assistance program for the period of October 1st, 23 through June 30th, 27, in the amount of $134,000, ERA 2 grant funded.
Motion by member Schwartzy, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Schwarzy. We move on to judicial public safety. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move to approve JPSP 006423, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Second Chance Cardiac Solutions for the purchase of AEDs and supporting supplies and services for the county campus for the period of September 27th, 2023 through September 26th, 2026 for a contract total amount not to exceed $96,811.80.
A motion by Member Evans, second by Member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Evans. We move on to Public Works, Member Garcia.
Good morning, Chair. I motion for approval to FMP 008023, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Air Filter Solutions LLC to furnish and deliver air filters as needed for county facilities management for the period of September 27th, 2023 through September 26th, 2024 for total contract amount not to exceed $128,262.56.
I had a motion by Member Garcia. Who made that second? Member Rutledge made the second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I motion for approval of FMP 008123, recommendation for the approval of a contract to United Door and Dock LLC to provide preventative maintenance, service, and repairs for overhead doors, roll-up shutters, gate operators, dock levelers, and revolving doors as needed for county facilities management for the 2-year period of November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2025, for a total contract not to exceed $209,000.
Motion by Member Garcia, second by Member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
A motion for approval of FMP 008223, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick, Inc. to provide professional architectural and engineering design services for parking lot repairs, future electric vehicle charging spaces, water main replacement between the care center and the DOT maintenance buildings, and additional engineering for the sidewalk and courtyard repairs on county campus for facilities management for the period of September 26, 2023 through November 30th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $220,915.
Have a motion by Member Garcia, second by Member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Garcia. We move on to transportation and Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of 233007, amendment to resolution DTP 001A21 issued to Lakeside International LLC to increase the funding in the amount of $30,000, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $210,000.
Motion by Member Ozog, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTCO 004523, amendment to purchase order 6279 serve issued to Peterbilt, Illinois Joliet Incorporated, doing business as JX Truck Center to furnish and deliver Cummins engine repair and parts as needed for the Department of Transportation to increase the encumbrance in the amount of $30,000, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $59,900, an increase of 100.33%.
Have a motion by Member Ozog, a second by Member Childress. Any discussion? Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question. Chris, when a contract is increased by over 100%, do we go back and look at the original procurement to see if this is still the lowest bid?
So. There we go. Since they were the low bidder to begin with,
Right.
and this is just to provide parts and services, so the parts are the markup, the markdown.
No, I
stays
understand, but if you're
consistent.
the lowest bidder,
Mhm.
when you first put in your bid and then you increase your fee over 100%, the question is, are they still the lowest bidder? Who checks that out?
I haven't checked that out. I know
Because I mean, an increase of 100%, they might not be the lowest bidder anymore, but they still hold the contract.
what's that? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so these contracts are a markup or a markdown. So if they were the low bid based on a 50% markdown, then that applies to every product they have. So in these parts case, in these types of situations, I don't know that would change the low bidder.
Well, I think
I
it's
can check
something
it.
that the board needs to look at, because I mean, I could come in with the lowest bid, but then if throughout the process, I increase my bid over 100%,
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, member Dessert. Member Garcia?
I guess what I'm looking for clarification on, are we buying more parts with this? So this is an increase in parts you're buying, or is this for the same parts you were going to originally buy?
so this is the same parts list we're gonna buy regardless. So we're buying, you know, if you go to Napa Auto Parts and you go to AutoZone and you buy a part, it's $5 or it's $6. Whether we buy 100 of them and increase it, it's still 5 and 6. So there is no discount on volume. These are just a markup or markdown on the,
Right, so it's what I'm seeing is it's just still those bids, you're just buying more parts.
we're buying more. So when we did these contracts initially, we had, our staffing was much lower. So we have fully filled all of our positions, so we can do a lot more work in-house now. So we have separate contracts for third party that will decrease and close those. So this is really just, we have more people to do the work. Our staffing is.
Okay,
We're
thank
fully
you.
staffed, and this is our winter get ready snowplow season.
Thank you, member Garcia. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, it says in decision memo, we have unexpected engine rebuild. This increase will be partially offset by savings in our outside repair contracts. Right. So we have an engine rebuild that we didn't know we were gonna have, and we're gonna have that saving by not going into our outside vendors, as Chris said. So it's kind of a change order, but it's not. We're doing the work in-house and we're not gonna be sending it out to a third-party contract.
Thank you, member Zay. Any other, member Krajewski?
I just say some of our bids are not low bid cost, it's low bid per line items. We do a lot of bidding where it's by price.
Correct.
And then it depends, whoever's low bidder on the pricing for the multiple items.
Correct.
Gets that, and then whatever we order, it's at that price.
Right, but this is a markup or a markdown contract. So there's other things we do. We've brought forward, we'll buy, you know, asphalt from different vendors geographically, you know, you don't have to drive as far. So that's when we look at the individual line items, but this is a markup, markdown.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, member Dessert, go ahead.
It's a legitimate question.
Thank you.
Ask on all of our bids.
You know, all questions are good questions. So, all right, any other discussion? Thank you, Chris. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozag.
And just as a comment, we just approved a contract for the point of sale for the cafeterias, and that was 100% increase. So unfortunately, we're living in very inflationary times, and that's for, from what I can tell, software as opposed to an actual physical item. So anyway, I will proceed. Hope this stops pretty soon. I move for approval of DTP 009723, recommendation for the approval of a contract to HBK Engineering to provide professional surveying, underground locating and marking services, and subsurface utility engineering services for a contract total not to exceed $500,000. Professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with Local Government Professional Services Selection Act.
Motion by member Ozag, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozag.
I move for approval of DTR 008123, awarding resolution to Mead Incorporated for the 2024-2025 traffic signal and streetlight maintenance at various locations within DuPage County for an estimated county cost of $4,985,225.41 for lowest responsible bid.
Okay, I have a motion by member Ozag, a second by member Childress. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozag.
I move for approval of DTR 008223, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the City of Darien to replace the existing retaining wall and fencing along the south side right-of-way of County Highway 31 Plainfield Road from Cass Avenue to Linden Avenue. Estimated county cost $187,500.
I have a motion by member Ozag, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozag.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of DTR 008323, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the Illinois Department of Transportation for improvements along Illinois 56 22nd Street from Illinois 59 to York Road with a total estimated cost of engineering and construction of $16,044,966 and an estimated, it is, and not enough coffee, and an estimated county cost of $402,000.
Motion by member Ozag, second by member Childress. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Member
Thank you,
Ozak.
Madam Chair.
We move on to item 8, finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIO 0006 determining the compensation of the DuPage County Public Defender.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Cahill. Any discussion on this item? Member Guston? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Guston second. I'm sorry. Any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Krajewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine items 8B through 8J, all acceptance and appropriation resolutions.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Krajewski and a second by Member Zay to combine items 8B through J. All in favor? Okay, the motion, the items are combined. Please proceed, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0211-23, amendment to resolution for the approval of issuance and payments to the training providers through the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Trade Adjustment Assistance Grant, $5,607. FIR 0209-23, acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity grant for $125,000. FIR 0212-23, acceptance and appropriation for the Illinois Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity Workforce grant for $5,151,280. FIR 0213-23, acceptance appropriation additional funding for the Illinois Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity Trade Adjustment Assistance grant for $10,065. FIR 0215-23, acceptance appropriation additional funding for the Illinois Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity Workforce Initiative Opportunity Act grant for $150,000. FIR 0216-23, acceptance appropriation of National Forensic Science Improvement Program grant for $178,733. FIR 0217-23, acceptance appropriation of Tobacco Enforcement Program grant for $6,993. FIR 0218-23, acceptance appropriation of Aging Case grant for $6,958,254. And FIR 0219-23, acceptance appropriation in Illinois Department of Human Services Rehousing Program grant, $82,920.
Hey, I have a motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Garcia. Any questions on any of these items? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Member Krajewski.
So I move on FIR 0212-23, approval issuance of payments to DuPage County to training providers grant for $40,000.
Motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0214-23, approval issuance of payments by DuPage County to training provider for a grant for $2,469,232.
Motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Yes, I move on FIR 0223-23, approval of a grant between the county and Arts Center for ARPA funds for the Warhol exhibit, 50,000 ARPA item.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Yu. Any discussion? Okay. I have Member Garcia, Member Galassi, Member Cahill, Member Ozak. Okay, Member Garcia, go ahead.
The question on this is, why are we paying this out after the exhibit is over? So I'm just wondering what the timing of the payment is, why this wasn't paid so they could actually use it while the exhibit was going on.
Okay, Nick is. Oh, okay, Mary Catherine and Nick will come up and.
So if you remember, this was the board gave the concurrence to fund this originally. It is taken, unfortunately, between the two sides coming up. I mean, there's several different organizations over there to come up with an agreement. So this is the outcome of the original motion by the board to fund this. Now the question would be, and you're right, the event is done now. So did they base some of their marketing on that original promise of the money? But we are fulfilling the obligation that was given by this board. That's what this agreement does. So the board had full concurrence for the 50,000 when we looked at this before. It has taken this long to get agreements in place.
Okay, so it's basically because it took so long with the agreement.
Absolutely. That's the reason.
All right.
Member Ozak, did you want to?
I wanted to add a couple of things. I spoke with Diana Martinez, the director of the MAC yesterday. They had an attendance, the exhibit closed the first week of this month, September. They had over 33,000 people attended. They do still have marketing expenses coming in to the tune of at least $30,000. Security, 44,000. They still have to do physical plant work to return the MAC to the previous situation, previous structure that they had. So this would really help them to break even. Their attendance was not quite as great as Frida. Again, you're talking to different audiences, but I know that they certainly did their marketing and worked as hard as they could, because I saw a billboard for this exhibit when I was leaving Michigan a couple of months ago. So the money went to a very good purpose, and this money will go to help them to break even. And I think that that's a really good use of our money. And one other point, and I know it's not directly related to this, but I thought we had given them money from ARPA for Frida, and it turns out we never did give MAC directly any funding for Frida. So in the last 2 years, they've brought 2 really great exhibits to our area, which raises our profile. So I think that this is really more on our side, trying to figure out how the money would be dispersed correctly. So thank you to Nick and Mary Catherine. I brought it back up to them in the beginning of August, I think, and then we went back and forth to be sure that the ARPA money, which Mary Catherine has done such a great job of, is dispersed correctly. And we are able to give this grant to the MAC, and I hope that you can support this.
Okay, thank you, Member Ozak. Member Galassi?
Oh, there we go. That was your question was my question. And just, I mean, and I think you answered my additional questions, but I fully support marketing for the arts and, dollars spent like this. But I just want to make sure that, this, if the exhibit's over, I mean, it does sound like there's outstanding expenses and they're exceeding $50,000 in excess of 50,000.
I was told that this would bring them to a breaking. So,
Oh yeah, your mic's
oh,
there.
I'm sorry. This will help them to, there I am. Okay, that this will help MAC to be at a break-even point for the entire exhibit. So there's a lot of expenses obviously involved with this. So the marketing, as at this point, there is still $30,000 in outstanding marketing alone, but there were other elements to putting the show on. So I think it would really help them. And we have not done it in the past for the big exhibits that they've brought to town. So
I might be able to provide a little bit of guidance. This is a reimbursement-based payment, so they still have to submit all the documentation for the ARPA requirements. We have to get everything so that we meet every aspect of ARPA, then they will be reimbursed a check. So that's part of the regular process.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Galassi. Member Cahill?
Yes, thank you. I support this, but that was what my question was. Don't they have to provide receipts for us to reimburse them? And then also the timing of this. I feel like, were we the ones delayed or were they the ones delayed?
So I mean, to be perfectly honest, Mary Catherine, I saw all the emails going out. I think they were fully involved with the event itself,
Yes,
and they
that
just
they got
didn't have
assigned.
time to do this. And I mean, there was still communication. It's just, there was no time with what. they were
I
going
understand.
through.
Let's just say going forward, though, I mean,
We were-
especially, we need to make sure that any of these reimbursements that they
Without
say
a
to us,
doubt.
it has to be prior to
Yeah.
the start of the event.
And I completely agree.
that's
This one is
reasonable.
this one is a little bit difficult because it's after the fact. And I mean, everybody wanted this thing to move forward, but there were legal issues that we were trying to work out, but then it was just a matter of time on their part during the event. But you
That's
are
what I
absolutely
think. Going
correct.
forward, we have to change
Definitely.
the timing. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cahill. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, that's my concern. I mean, we heard there was problems with Frida. We heard there's problems with this one. If they want the money, they have to do the paperwork ahead of time. This does look very odd when we get it after the fact. And I'm fine with it, but if they want the money, they have to kind of like do it ahead of time. So it doesn't look so bad. And I have no doubt that Member Ozog has talked to him, but a little memo or an email or something to the rest of the board stating, this is what happened. Hey, we couldn't do it because of X, Y, and Z. And hey, we apologize, but we still have outstanding debts, would go a long way to make this look a lot better than it does. Again, if they didn't get money for free, that's news that we never heard about. I mean, again, is that because they just couldn't do it and we ran out of time? I mean, again, just a little bit of paperwork to get the money, I don't think is asking a lot. I understand they had a lot going on, but they've got to have somebody over there that can get us the paperwork and get it ahead of time before the event's concluded.
Thank you, members A. Member Krajewski.
That's a lot of what my questions were, but I know it had to be like a year ago, we did approve the
No.
50,000.
About six, it was probably
about
6
April.
months or so.
April.
Okay, whatever. It took a long time ago, we gave consensus, but again, I'd like a little more detail on why this took so long, you know, because it's only a $50,000 grant and the excuse they're too busy is not an excuse.
That's
I mean,
not,
it's not, well, that's what Nick said, but it's not like we bought 25,000 different items at $2. I mean, marketing, it's only a couple of, it's marketing, it's only a couple of expenses they're gonna do. They get a contract for $2 grand, $3 grand. How hard is it to put that in and send it to you? It should take like 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
One of the things that was at issue was where exactly the money should go and where the money could go. And so in terms of legally, one of the things we have a prohibition on, originally they asked for the money to go to their foundation. And we have a prohibition, you know, on donations. And so I spent a fair amount of time going up and back with the state's attorney, just being like, well, we can't do it that way. So there's many different parts of the College of DuPage. And now we've looked at financials for all of those parts, I feel like. But this was at the end, this was how we decided the best approach was going to be to fund the MAC. So at different points, we've had questions to them. You know, there sometimes were delays in them getting back to us. At some point, we weren't sure, you know, what the status was with it. So
it seems to me that it was pretty easy to find $50,000 worth of eligible ARPA expenses over there, but it seems like we were disagreeing based on what we were telling them. It sounds like what they wanted to do, and our state's attorney was saying, no, you can't, or somebody over here was saying, no, you can't.
yeah, I mean, there's no question that the expenses were eligible from an ARPA perspective, but where the buckets of the money went, that was really the issue that went on for a little while. But in the end, we came to consensus about that. That's a more recent conversation.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love the Frida art exhibit and also the Andy Warhol exhibit. They do a wonderful job there over at the college, and this actually elevates them to another level. The one thing I would love to see though is, did they have any sponsorships for their events, number one, and also maybe recognition for the county board for when they do support these types of things. I know Member Ozog said there was a low turnout, only 30,000 visitors, but maybe we could get some kind of after report of data as to how many people might have used the hotels, how many people might have used the restaurants. Yeah, it sounds like a lower number, but if they brought people in from other areas, then, you know, the investment is there. So, you know, I wasn't here when it was initially presented, so I'm kind of getting the tail end without any data behind it. And so I support it, but I would in the future prefer that we had more info versus less, and it also wasn't done in a timely fashion. Particularly, it's a good amount of money that could really help them, and you would anticipate that you would be right on top of it. So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I might add one comment about that. With almost everything that we do here, we have performance measures, and team has set up this system where everybody submits on a monthly basis of how many tickets were sold, or so in this case we put into the contract that tickets sold was the piece that had to go in there, but I'm sure we could negotiate with them some additional information that we can show on our portal that's like outward facing, that shows all the metrics for the whole ARPA program. So we'll work on that and make sure that
great.
shows.
Yeah, that, because that really helps us gauge. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Member Ozog to close. Go ahead. Member
thank you.
Ozog.
I also want to point out, we did have a presentation from Diana Martinez before we talked about this grant money back in the spring. And I think what happened overall was that there was this issue about where the money could land, and that was a problem. And to be honest, she was in the middle of running this nationwide exhibit, basically. So I brought the issue back up in probably early August, I think. And at that time, Nick and Mary Catherine, I want to thank you. We re-examined it, what was going on with it, and it looked like we would be able to disperse the money for marketing and their whatever the marketing expenses to them. So in terms of how this worked, it was challenging because we did need to do it legally, obviously, and appropriately. But going forward, I hope that, I mean, I can expect that there would be, you know, a more timely fashion. And if we were giving grants that were not ARPA based, it would be something that would be less stringent, not less stringent, less scrutiny or rules to follow, let's say different rules to follow. So at any rate, it would really help them out. And in terms of timeliness or reports, I'm sure Ms. Martinez would be more than happy to come and report. She told me as much yesterday. So I said that I would bring the discussion up to her. I would handle the discussion today, but she'll come in and give a report. No question about that, if that's what the board would like to hear. But I think that, you know, the MAC is a jewel in our community. So I think that this would be very helpful for them. So I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to informational. I will call Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items: A, payment of claim; B, wire transfers; C, grant proposal notifications.
Have a motion by Member Krajewski and a second by Member Guston to receive and place on file items A, B, and C under informational. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Krajewski, we move on to our discussion item, and we have 23-311-9 County Board Rules, public comment placement on the agenda. So I would like to hand this over to Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I think this is a topic that's been brought up a couple of times on the board floor, but after our county board meeting 2 weeks ago, we had really lengthy presentations in both finance and county board. And for people that had taken time out of their schedule to come here and give us their thoughts, we made them sit there for a really long time. And so I asked if we couldn't move public comment earlier in the agenda so that we're encouraging people to come with their valuable time and make their comments and be able to go. So that's where I'm at on this.
Okay, do we have any other further discussion? Member Covert and then Member Dessert.
Yeah, just a question, clarification, how, like, where on the agenda were you looking? You said earlier.
Before the presentation. So
but after roll call?
yeah, I would say after roll call. I want to encourage people to come and give us their thoughts here. And it's part of a bigger conversation too about maybe a nighttime meeting every once in a while, but I won't open that can of worms this morning. But I think we need to encourage people to give us their thoughts.
Very good. So Member Covert asked a question, Member Dessert.
Thank you. I was going to suggest after roll call as well. I totally agree with Member Rutledge that people are taking time off work, time out of the family. Maybe they got a babysitter to come and speak with us. And I think that, I mean, even today's presentation is going to be Chair Conroy's budget presentation, which could be quite lengthy. And so I'm sorry. And so I agree with Member Rutledge, number one, and number two, I agree it should be after roll call. Thank you.
Okay, the only thing to consider, this is the only thing. So when we do bring presenters in for a presentation, a lot of them are also taking time off work to come in. So one way or another, somebody's going to be waiting. So we could move maybe presentations down to after discussion or old business. I mean, what do you guys, what do you think? I mean, go ahead, Mary Ozak, Member Ozak.
Sorry, Madam Chair. It'd be really difficult to tell people when to show up if we waited till after old business.
Yeah, it's tough. I know it's tough. Member Zay?
Maybe we should limit county board staff on how many presentations there should be at each board meeting. Maybe that would be helpful.
That's a
I mean,
thought.
now that Mary or that health department has new leadership, we know where that's gonna clear up at least a couple hours each month. You know, from Karen.
Member Covert?
I guess my question is, what if the public comments were based on the presentation? What if people were coming in, and wanted to hear a presentation and then, sometimes that happens. So.
Right. It's tricky. So Member Dessert.
To your point, Madam Chair, the presentations could go on for hours, but the public comment is finite. It's limited to just
For
30 minutes.
Yeah.
So if the presenters are waiting, they know that they only have to wait 30 minutes.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's a good point.
But they know.
Okay, so do we want, Member,
One suggestion that
Jill,
staff
go ahead, please.
discussed,
Yeah.
was the possibility of putting proclamations, which are relatively brief, and allowing those to go at the top of the meeting, and putting presentations, which are generally a little longer. So
After
that's
public
another way to split the baby, as it were, if you all want to discuss that option.
So what do you think about that? Doing presentations, public or proclamations, public comment, then presentations? And the time limit on presentations? What do we want to put? Well, some presentations, if we put them after, there's some very important presentations.
But half of those presentations are just the stuff that they can put in our packet that we can look at. They just put it up there and go over the same thing that we can.
But
sit
some
and
of it's
read.
nice for the public to hear as well. Yeah, I mean, Member Garcia.
Yeah, just for transparency's sake, I do believe that that's great that those presentations are given out loud. So people who can't come in and who watch online are able to get the information. So I just think that that's something that we should do. I do agree that perhaps we just do the proclamations, which are very quickly done, and then the presentations directly after the public comment. That we've done a nice.
Yeah, I think that's a
it's
great.
nice, what's the word I'm looking for?
Compromise. Yeah,
Compromise.
I think that's a good,
Too
I
early.
think that's a good, do we have consensus to do public proclamations, public comment, and then presentations? Okay, so come on up, Jason.
Seeing as though I know I'm the one that's gonna have to write this, I just want
Yes,
to
that's what I
clarify and
wanted,
make
yeah,
sure that I
yeah.
understand. So right now, under the current county board rules, we have it goes chairs report, public comment, consent agenda. So those three, what we would do is we'd leave chairs report as is. We would then do, public comment, then chairs report, then proclamation,
Yeah, we
or
would
I'm
do
sorry,
proclamations-
presentations.
Proclamations first. So proclamations.
Right,
then
so
all.
chairs report will stay the same. We'll move into public comment and we'll add a presentation header after that.
Yes.
Okay.
But
No.
proclamations come
I'm sorry,
before. Yes.
So, I'm sorry,
proclamations.
I'm listing it at chairs remarks because that's where we do the proclamation. So yes, proclamation / chairs remarks,
Yes,
public comment,
yes,
presentations.
yes.
I will amend it to where we have presentations as a subheader and I will bring that to you.
Great. Does that, Member Guston?
I'm gonna turn over to the chief administrative officer.
Yeah, I mean, their
So-
recommendation on how much time they need
Yeah.
for each of these things is.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend a hard and fast rule on presentations. We can make, I mean, if that's the direction of the board, because for those that were back at the beginning of CARES Act, remember, we did a 6-hour meeting that was one presentation. And it was, it was needed. There's no way around it. But you're right. Some of these presentations are going too long. We can endeavor to keep it to a shorter, but there are sometimes, I know, like in November, I'm going to be having a financial discussion with you that will be presentation. It will definitely be longer than 10 or 20 minutes, but there are decisions that have to be made by the board. So we can definitely strive for a shorter presentation. We will do that. Probably no more than 10 to 15 minutes is where on each presentation, unless if there's something, but I wouldn't recommend a hard and fast rule.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have some very important presentations that come before the board. So Member Ozag and then Member Dessert.
It would seem to me if we're going to make this more efficient for the visit for the public, we do roll call, then we do proclamations. That's fine. Separate it from the chair's report. So do roll call, proclamations, public participation, and then the chair's report. So for instance, today, the chair will be giving, and the chair's report obviously varies from
You got it.
meeting to meeting, but for instance, today will definitely be longer. So
Mhm.
I think that's the most efficient way to get the public in here and heard, and then be able to move on.
What we'll do is.
And then presentations after the chair's report.
So I think we've kind of heard the order. Jason will make a cut on it. Get that out to the board for input, but I think we understand where you as a board would like to go
Yeah,
with
and
this.
and the pledge and invocation will stay where it's at. And member to start.
Thank you. I've got 2 points I'd like to make. And the first one is that some of the presentations, as you've pointed out, Nick, need to be longer, like the insurance presentation. I found that very informative. The second point I want to make is that we are all elected officials who have a responsibility to our constituency, in that when a presentation is made, you can keep it to 10 minutes, but a lot of the length of these presentations is all of the questions and comments that we have for the board floor that extend maybe a 10-minute presentation into an hour-long presentation. And as an elected official, I would not want my questions or comments to be cut off. Okay, we're 15 minutes in the conversation. That's all the questions or comments were taken. And that's just not right. As an elected official, I don't want to be cut off because we're at a certain timeline. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to call on member Rutledge to close.
Just want to thank everybody for listening to this. Thank you, member Desart. I 100% agree with you that those I didn't ask for shorter presentations. I only asked for public comment to get for closer up to the top of the agenda. But thank you all for listening. I think that this is a good way to connect with the public, and I appreciate your support.
Yes, and thank you for bringing this forward. Appreciate it. So Jason, do you have your direction?
I just also want to say thank you for being responsive to our point, which is.
Yes.
I am the person who invites people here to receive proclamations primarily. And as somebody said, I'm sorry, I can't remember who said, we are also asking these people and some of these nonprofit groups and some of the people we recognize to take time out. So thank you for recognizing them as well.
That was me.
And we have one question.
Yeah, member Krajewski, go ahead, and then we'll.
Well, speaking of proclamations, what's the determination between a proclamation here in front of us and a proclamation back in the chair's office?
You have a social media policy and a proclamation policy that you receive, but I will tell you very briefly. Generally, proclamations are requested to the chair, and that's a decision by the chair because the agenda is the product of the chair.
So she decides if it's in her office or out here.
Well, sometimes people request to do it a certain way.
I just had one. It was back there. I don't know why it was back there, but
Okay.
we always did it up here. That's why it's
Correct.
just. No, I know. That's why it was one of the animal ones. We always come up here with the animal, but then we did it.
We have
in the
one
back. So
clarification if we could ask.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
sure,
If it's
please.
her.
So just one more time, just to make sure. So we'll have right after quorum call or roll call, we'll go proclamations, which will be its new own header. We'll go public comment. We'll go chair remarks / presentations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for the, member Garcia. That's gonna remain where it is. Yeah, we're gonna leave that all the same. Those only take a second usually. Okay, so we have that all settled. We move on to old business, and I understand that Lisa is available now to answer member Zay's questions. Lisa, are you?
I am. Good morning, and I apologize for the delay in being available. Member Zay, if you'd like to repeat your question, I understand it's about benchmarks with World Relief.
No, just with our training overall. Do you have overall numbers? How many people we're helping? How many people are getting jobs overall for the year with youth, immigrants, and different veterans in different sectors?
Oh, okay. So total performance. So our last full program year, grant year, ended on June 30th. I can get all of that data out to the board. I have all my numbers here for World Relief specifically, because I thought that that's what the question was. So I don't have the complete data handy. I can tell you that the performance measures that we negotiate for a 2-year period with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, we always meet or exceed all of those performance standards. But I can get you specific breakdowns for each of our core 3 grants following the meeting, if that suffices.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Member Krajewski?
Quick question, Lisa. For the employers in the county and what jobs they're looking for, how is that matching up with the federal grants and the training that we're training people for? Are we kind of in line, or are we seeing that the employers are looking for different skill sets than what we're training for?
That's a complicated question, and I could talk on that for the next hour. I think where we're at right now is
We could do it offline then.
yeah, I was going to say in short, the opportunity is there for individuals to train or to get into these different career paths. What we're seeing is that sometimes where the demand is doesn't align with what job seekers want to do, which is a whole different kind of challenge. The pattern remains right now where we do not have enough workers in general to fill the vast demand that seems to be out there in the business community, regardless of the sector or the type of job.
Okay, hold on, we have one more question, Member Guston.
Lisa, one quick question too. So are we initiating any kind of conduit or connection with the schools, particularly the high schools and the colleges, to make sure that we can start to facilitate individuals to those vacant spots?
Yeah, I would say that there's a good deal of work that's done in that regard, not only through WorkNet. Naturally, we connect in with the high schools and try to recruit, students that we can assist that are going to be graduating seniors, and then direct them to these in-demand career avenues. But in addition to that, we're a part of, and I know the board, I think, is aware of the initiative that's ROE driven with GPS education partners to do kind of pre-apprenticeship work through the high schools. That's one of the avenues. The schools have different kinds of CTE programs from school to school that kind of try to get the students exposed to or training in certain occupations. So there is work being done in that regard, kind of all across the county, including what we do here at WorkNet.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Lisa? Okay, thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate your time. Do we have anything else under old business? Okay, do we have anything under new business? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Member Zay, second by Member Yu. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? We are adjourned.